hard time for me yesterday anyway. I don't know about Tim, by the way. You asked.
It's good that you're
I'm
support. It's good that you support a team like Madrid when you're a supporter of Arsenal. Because you actually win something with one of your teams.
Exactly. I love the banter. Let's the banter at this level. It's great. Tim, what's your favorite team? Never asked you.
I'm Liverpool. I always come back to Liverpool. So we had a great season in the league, but shocking in the Champions League and the FA Cup and stuff. But yeah, they're pretty solid.
What team would you buy? Well, what team are you going to buy?
Are we going to buy it? Right?
Oh yeah, that's. By the way, this is a joke running around Score, but this is definitely the end game. I'm not even joking. So we were thinking about either like a, like championship, so level 2, like League 2 in England, or maybe something in Spain. And the dream would be to use Score to basically like improve the quality of the team, and then get to the highest league within the country. But yeah, I would say something in England or something in Spain.
So there's no coach. There's just Score.
Oh yeah, that's the dreams. That's yeah.
It's just an LLM connected into Sub44, and after a game, you get a text message from the subnet and tells you that you're fired. And
next week you're on the bench.
You're being sold.
Yeah, that would be funny.
Let the games begin. It's 6 right now. Cool. Perfect. Kickoff time. Should I flip a coin to see who talks first?
Yeah, if you want to. I've got a presentation to show, so I will share my screen. But maybe
I don't actually have a coin, so I'll just go with that. Imaginary coin flip. There you go. It's to you, Max.
Just a second. I think I will have to quit and come back because of the MacBook setup.
Typical.
Just have a new MacBook basically. So just I need to quit and reopen. I'm going back in a minute. Sorry about that.
Well, Tim, you might as well just go score on him at this point while he's not on the field.
Amateur, but no, he's literally installed a new MacBook this morning, so we'll be back in a moment. There he is.
Yeah, I'm here. Do you guys? Oh, so that's not the right screen.
Yeah. Oh, I see it.
Yeah, but that's not the right one. Sorry about that. I'm thick tonight. It's quite late on my end. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's the right screen. Perfect.
Beautiful.
So you guys see the whole presentation now. Cool. Amazing.
I think it's
Love it. Let's start. Tim, you wanna kick off the presentation?
I'm just reading the chat. I guess like Score for the uninitiated. We've been building on Vitensor since sort of June, July last year. We kicked off with a predict subnet, which effectively was like a 1x2 game outcome prediction. This progressed and it did okay, but what we really discovered through talking to a lot of potential stakeholders in the system, so different clubs, managers, scouts, people within the fantasy and betting worlds, was that there was an opportunity to do something a little bit more interesting, or a lot more interesting, which is where we got to with essentially this computer vision subnet. But without jumping too far into the specifics of it, I guess. I guess just go back to that previous slide. Like where we are, we see ourselves as this sort of winning layer, because winning can mean a lot of different things to, a lot of different people. But effectively, our overall vision is it's fundamentally sort of disrupt the ability for people to win at whatever they're participating in life.
100%.
So Max, you want to touch on the team?
Yeah, definitely. To achieve this vision, obviously we try to get like brilliant people to work around us with different backgrounds in data science, in gaming, and also in sports. Just trying to have all the different angles of what it takes to win, what it takes to win in tech, what it takes to win in sports, what it takes to win in data science. We do believe that Bitensor is all about winning as well. I mean, we're all talking about like day and night about the incentive mechanisms and stuff. So I think that it's in Bitensor DNA as well. So we just try to kind of align the right people to achieve a vision. And we also took kind of a specific angle on trying to find always new meta, which is for us the most important thing, because obviously winning is a big term, but there's a journey from starting a subnet and then helping different people in sports to win. So leveraging also this community of miners and working in an open source world is also important for us, because we definitely want to democratize the access to this tech. In the world of football, we started in football basically because we are pretty well connected in this world, and also there's a big counterintuitive fact, which is like football is one of the biggest markets, but from a data science perspective, it just focuses on like probably 5 teams per country in Europe. And then when you go down into like the different, like the lower rankings or even the lower leagues, everyone would love to have access to data science, capabilities, but without really having the, like the money to access to it. So for us, it's a huge step in also working in like making sure that everyone has access to this. There's obviously like a business rationale in doing this, but there's also kind of a mission for us to help a lot of people to have access to this tech. And yeah, so the mission is pretty simple. We've used some like football players' names, but I mean soccer. But our goal is to basically help people found the new Messi, train the new. I mean, we could say Ronaldo or LeBron James if we do like a basketball analogy, and obviously help managers to win by being inspired by different great managers. Yeah, so we see Score as a winning layer, but if you think about the way we are working with a subnet, we're really trying to do 2 things at the same time. We're trying to build this layer, but also we're trying to build like vertical integrated businesses that are leveraging the data we are gathering, within the subnet. The market sizes we put on this slide are like the TAM, the total addressable markets. We already know, because we have also like a traction slide that you guys will see at the end of the presentation. Within these markets, we're already working with different actors. But when you see kind of the scope where Score could help, it kind of gives people kind of a a view on how big this sports data subnet could be basically. And the interesting thing is, and that's the reason we use like dotted lines, is because there's always overlaps between the different markets, where by working with a sports data company, you get access to different other people, and it's very easy to move from one to another. Yeah, so
I think just
for us,
adding, sorry,
yeah,
Max, sorry, just to add to that slide, like I think there's something, the reason why we see it more of as a flywheel rather than a stack, is through helping these various different verticals, which we're doing already. We've seen the data, the feed back into our sort of into the subnet and into the Score layer. So we sort of have this feedback mechanism where we're providing data to these stakeholders. They're using the data, and then the secondary data, which they're effectively producing as sometimes as a side effect, is fed back into what we're doing, which ultimately increases the intelligence of the foundation of the Score layer. So that's like a really interesting feedback loop, and one we're going to be really sort of pushing to make sure any deals that we're doing, we have access to the data coming back the other way where possible.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so Tim, maybe you want to kind of break down the tech journey to, you know, starting from like the problems we identify with the different stakeholders to how we translated it to a subnet.
Yeah, so we call this like positional evaluation. So effectively, there are a lot of like there's a lot of metrics within football already, at top tier and even down the leagues, the people counting and logging, number of passes, successful passes, shots on goal, all of this sort of data. So it's very data heavy. However, the insights are actually quite difficult to come by. And even at the top level, speaking to Premier League scouts, Premier League managers, there's a huge disconnect between the managers and the scouts and the data team. So some of these, well, a lot of these Premier League teams or top tier teams have their own data teams who are both producing data and trying to analyze said data. However, a lot of times there's a big disconnect between these the management and the data, really leading to the they're not really using the data effectively. So there are certain teams that have come up through the leagues. Brentford is a good example. Brighton is another, who are leaning a lot more heavily into the data, and they've found a connection. So what we're really trying to do is fundamentally collect the data, like collect raw data in the first instance, which is what the subnet does now, and I'll go into the details of that shortly. But as a secondary part to that, essentially we are using that raw data to create this football value function, what we call. So it's essentially understanding the value of players' positions on every game state. So every frame, every second, we know the value of a player or the score of a player based on their behaviors in the preceding frames, and then what we predict to happen in the future. So that's really the overall vision. But if I come back to the fundamental of, okay, firstly, we need to collect enormous amounts of data to achieve this. Currently, the state of play is, even at FIFA, I mean, FIFA spends enormous amounts of money. They have 30 or 40 cameras all around the stadium collecting data in high definition. They've got a team of 100 people sat in the room annotating data. So they create great data, as you can imagine, for very top tier teams. However, it's incredibly expensive. It takes a long time, and it requires these team of expert annotators. So there's a lot of hardware and headcount involved in actually achieving that. So effectively, through BitTensor, and really what BitTensor has enabled for us, or the opportunity we found in BitTensor, is through this asymmetry, which we'll come on to in a moment. We are able to effectively create very, very similar data, considerably faster. It's more than 1,000 times faster, but that number started to look a bit silly, so we stayed with 1,000.
Yeah.
It's considerably cheaper. And it's almost as accurate. So it's not at the gold standard yet of human annotation, but the state of improvements within technology, as I'm sure everyone on this call knows, is improving at such a rapid rate where it's not too long before it will be as accurate, and then potentially more accurate in the near future. Sorry, Max, you were going to say something.
No. I just obviously double down on the fact that working on this subnet makes us really confident in competing with human level of accuracy. Yeah, 100%.
Cool. So this is a bit of a snapshot, really, of what happens. I guess a visualization of what happens currently on the subnet. So there's clips of games that get sent through to the miners. The miners essentially do object and key point detection. Excuse me, frame by frame. So they draw basically bounding boxes around each object, and they do key point detection at certain key points on the pitch. And then we effectively can take that data and know the position of every player on the pitch at every time, and the ball. So essentially, this asymmetry, we've uncovered this asymmetry, which is on one side, we have this very, very complex and very resource intensive annotation problem, which is doing that key point detection and object detection across quite many hundreds of frames per minute. On the other side, we've discovered a lightweight yet effective validation mechanism. So that's really the asymmetry we've uncovered, and that's what we're really pushing down on, because that's where we see the opportunity to really scale this to offer the data annotation and then the data services that a lot of these teams and clubs require, but being able to do it at scale and do it, maintain accuracy and speed whilst operating on it. So if I just run through a quick overview of how it actually works. So we provide the footage data. This could come from anywhere, to be honest. We are looking at validators, creating a front end for validators to essentially be able to accept or ingest people uploading data, which I'll come onto in a moment. But for now, we provide the footage data. The validators pass it to the miners, who detect players' balls and the pitch on every single frame. Validators score the submissions using clip and homography, which is something we've just deployed last week, which I'll come on to. We essentially then compile the best submissions and store this data. So we compile, each task is 30 seconds long. So we compile all of the various tasks that make up a game, and we store the raw data. There is a marketplace already for this raw annotation service, effectively. So we're in talk with data brokers who are interested in purchasing this raw data. But we are currently working on this player scoring system, which uses that raw data. And like I was saying before, it essentially scores players' impact on every game state. So this is using this football value function, which we're developing, which will potentially form part of a new challenge on the subnet, as and when we're ready. And that's really taking the raw data and creating some real novel insights from that data. And that's really how valuable that player's position is at that state in time with regards to a future goal state. This essentially kicks out the data for potential for a whole bunch of different apps. The ones that are very active, and then that we and partners are working on. Six Dubs is a peer-to-peer fantasy football market. D-King, which some of you may be aware of, is an AI agent, essentially. So that is accessing the data and providing an edge to a sports hedge fund we're working with. We've got Scouts who are working with Brian McDermott, who's an advisor, who was an ex Premier League manager, and Scout for Arsenal. And there's huge opportunity in finding that emerging talent, which this will uncover. And for Coach, it's really looking at what works and what doesn't work, and potentially in real time. So that's just a couple of the apps that we are actively actually working on and working with partners on. But really, if you explode this out, there's going to be a huge amount of potential, we feel, once we have this data for football, and then potentially for other sports as well. So we've just recently upgraded the validation system. So on the challenges, previously we were essentially using OpenAI's multimodal vision model. We tested multiple. Theirs was the best at the time. It was expensive, so it didn't really allow us to scale with the number of challenges. And as you guys are aware, it's probabilistic. So two submissions from the same miner of exactly the same data would be scored differently, which obviously is not a good thing. We were only able to evaluate 2 frames out of the 750 per challenge, which was a problem. We also saw naturally, as what happens in BitTensor, miners taking advantage or identifying weaknesses within the VLM and taking advantage of it. So essentially what we've done is we've replaced the VLM OpenAI validation, and we've migrated to essentially semantic using clip and geometric using homography. So essentially clip will take the crops of every bounding box and do a semantic embedding with both the word of what the miner says that thing is, so a football player or a soccer player, and the image itself, and it will essentially return a like a probability of whether those two things are aligned. This is considerably more accurate than the previous method that we were using. It's quicker. It can be done on device, and it can be done with a CPU, and it's deterministic, which is very important based on being able to score accurately. The second part, which is essentially validating the pitch key points. Again, previously we were using a VLM to sort of eyeball it, which was very unreliable. We are now using homography, so essentially we have 32 fixed key points, which the miner should be looking for. If they detect at least 4, we can then effectively use homography to map those 4, and then use a series of different tests to check player plausibility of movement and whether the players exist on the pitch or not, and a whole bunch of different things to essentially give a pretty accurate score as to how well they've determined these key points on the pitch. So this essentially is, both of those are deterministic, so the same score will happen for the same submission. Yet it's also a lot more scalable. So that really allows us to scale the amount of footage that we're putting through the subnet. So then the last challenge is essentially finding that data. So the data we need to provide to the miners.
Yeah, definitely. So that was a huge challenge. We needed to have access to enough data to be relevant to obviously our customers, but also to push as many challenges as possible, making sure we were covering different leagues and different games and situations. And that's why we're really happy today to announce like a global footage partnership, as you can see on this slide. 283 leagues. That's roughly 400,000 matches. And the beauty of this partnership is that we always have access to the current season and then a rolling 3-season archive. So miners are always going to be fed with the latest games, and we'll make sure to also, for our work on the positional evaluation, we'll always have access to data from the same clubs and same players across the years. So for us, it's it's a very, very big moment. It's not just a partnership, it's more like of a moat for the subnet, because if you think about the subnet as being just like a data provider for other businesses, we're probably going to build the biggest football annotated footage annotated data set on the market. So that's why I'm taking a bit of time on this slide, is because for us it's really, really massive, and it is putting an immense value around the work of the miners on the subnet. So yeah, that's really big.
So essentially, we've also got an updated white paper which goes into a little bit more detail about the challenges that we had faced, and the validation mechanism that we've implemented. So that's live on the website, on the scorevision.io website today, which will just give a little bit more flavor, a little more detail for those people that are interested in digging deeper. So again, I come back to this football value function. So we've solved the annotation problem. So this is something that's working. It's being validated. It's been validated accurately, and we're going to start to scale this the throughput of the system. The next thing we have identified is okay, we can sell that data, but we can also use that data to actually create something incredibly novel and incredibly useful. So
Yeah.
we're working on this player scoring system. Max, do you want to
Yeah,
expand?
just want to add some interesting things. So adding this player scoring system will, like force us to add a new target on the subnet. But the way we are seeing this scoring system is like creating a new ELO rating, like in chess before football to begin with, but then for other sports, but also some sort of a universal way to rate and score any moving object within the video. So it could apply to sports, it could apply to many different things. And the way we're going to doing this, so we usually talk about predictions. We had this prediction subnet before, but we're approaching it in a complete new way. So we're working with one of our team member called Peter Cotton. He wrote a book called Micro Prediction, and is a huge fan of Monte Carlo simulation and stuff. So we already hired a team of like a few quants, and they're going to work on simulating millions of football games based on different parameters. And we're going to learn from these simulations to then be really able to understand how we want to apply this scoring system. So working backwards from this like huge simulation space would be something super interesting for us, and we're really eager to share a lot of our findings in this thing. So yeah, stay around our Twitter account and stuff like that, because I think this summer we'll start sharing a lot of more like math papers and scientific paper around what we're trying to achieve there. It's really exciting because just giving some examples, if you correlate like positional evaluation with, for instance, in sport like live odds, then you have an ability to really assess the economical impact of an action within the game at different levels. So it's super interesting, and I think we're going to take the subnet to a new dimension doing this. So for me, it's almost as exciting as announcing the data partnership.
So what's next? We're going to expand what we're asking of the miners. So it's going to be like identifying which team that each player is from, the player, like which player, identifying tracking players through time, which is quite a difficult challenge, but that's going to be making its way into the system. Looking at object velocity, so just recording like how quickly objects are moving, which again is very easy. Once we've got this frame by frame data, it's very easy to calculate this. And the proximity to the ball, again, very easy to calculate once the data has been annotated by the miners. Later, we're looking at event spotting. So that's looking at basically being able to programmatically, or the miners being able to detect when a goal happens, or when a foul happens, or when there's a free kick, so they can essentially add this additional layer of metadata within the system rather than it having to come from somewhere else.
Yeah, and on this one, on even spotting, it's very interesting because there's a lot of big companies. Some of them are camera companies, like one of them is called Oak Eye, and most of the time, big data companies are working with this camera, and companies that are providing people with like different angles, high quality. And the funny bit is that everyone is trying to kind of improve their models around the even spotting field. But as usual, we think that if we manage to build the right incentive mechanism, the subnet will be able to kind of outperform them all. So that's the reason why we're calling Score like a flywheel, because every single improvement, and Tim said that before, every single improvement for us has immediately like a rational from a business perspective. So yeah, I think it was worth it to talk about it. That's another benchmark we can compete against, basically.
So final point, I guess, which we've been touching on a couple of times, is this football value function. So I won't go into detail again, but essentially, as Max was just mentioning before, it's building out this function based on very large amounts of data to be able to truly value the impact players are having on a game at every single point in time. So real time is something that we've always wanted to do. There's a huge amount of benefit to being able to implement this. The miners currently are operating at such a speed and doing inference at such a speed that real time is completely doable. So essentially, we will introduce another challenge type, which will be a stream rather than just a single challenge, and really that opens the door for real time data. So that's obviously on the live betting side, there's a whole bunch of interest there. Tactical insights, so the coach could effectively be fed in almost real time some of this data on how effective whatever tactics they're using are, and then broadcast overlays, like it becomes a very valuable thing. So this is something that we will definitely be implementing. And then Max, maybe you want to touch on beyond football.
Yeah, I'm going to switch the slide, but what we want to introduce is, since now we are really confident in our ability to annotate video data from all the conversations we had with different data brokers or even AI companies like Web2 AI companies, we think we should be able to really push Score as a service, letting validators building front ends, as Tim said, allowing people to come and just upload some video content to be annotated. There's a lot of value in this. I think there's also an important rationale about that when you think about how people are experiencing DTAO, how they want to feel like that the subnet is already being monetized from its early days and early mechanisms. So I think Score as a service makes a lot of sense. We're going to work with different validators to see if there's an appetite for them to do this, but we already have the brokers, we already have some companies that we're talking to that are eager to use this service. So it's very exciting for us to announce this as well today, meaning that we're also working on accepting fiat as a payment on the subnet. I saw some stuff on X as well from people asking when we would, or any subnet would accept DTAO as a payment. I think there's a journey from here to getting Web2 companies paying with DTAO, but I think it would come. So yeah, this is really exciting, and also adding these new tasks will also push us to be smarter with the way we are adding stuff within the subnet. So we also signed some agreements with different people to bring new sports data, and one of the new sports we're going to add, and I can tell it today, is cricket. We've just signed a partnership with someone called Nick Compton. He's one of the biggest cricket player ever, and he's going to make sure we're connected to the right people in this ecosystem. This is a massive market, obviously in Asia, but across the world. It has also makes sense from a lot of different perspectives, knowing the people we're working with. So yeah, cricket is going to be the second sport on Score, and this is also a big announcement we wanted to make today. I think I can keep on talking. So yeah, coming back to the flywheel, just for you to know, on the sports data, companies, hedge fund slides, we partner with the second largest sports hedge fund. They're managing a bit more than 5 billion a year. They're really interested in working with us. Obviously, they are mainly operating on American sports, and they were really happy to know that we had this focus on soccer/football. On the professional sports vertical, so we were in talks with different clubs. I know people saw some stuff on X. All of them are really true. The thing is, the sales cycle with businesses like that is a bit longer, obviously, just because for one simple reason is the season is still live, so they're not going to disrupt their data science team, in the middle of the season. But we're talking to top clubs in Europe and also top institutions. So all the names you saw on X are, real, and we're talking to them, and we are also gathering a lot of intel from them, so we can also make the subnet better. Obviously, with the new validation system, I think some of the conversations are going to go, faster and further. So that was important to say. And also on the fantasy gaming apps / agents, we are, we keep building stuff. I mean, this is what we do on a daily basis. We want to prove the world that subnets can have a front end. Obviously, our dream would be people coming and building on top of the subnet without, needing to show them how to do it. But there's always a journey. So we've decided to kind of show people before, anything else. And we're getting a good traction. There's an amazing app we're going to launch on top of the agent. We've already launched. This app is going to be launched by the summer. The reason we're doing this is because there's the World Cup coming in 2026. So we want people to use this app, which is going to be a fantasy app, and we want to proudly say that this fantasy app is powered by Tensor. And then we want to do like large marketing campaigns around the World Cup, showing people how data coming from miners could then, power like the funniest fantasy app ever. This is pretty much it. We're just trying to prove our point. We're trying to disrupt like a big market, but also we're trying to create nice content, great experiences, and also just finding the shortest route to revenue. This is something maybe people would criticize because we're probably not showing our business in a very academical way, but I mean, this is our DNA. We just want to go to market, and we just want to show the world that obviously running a subnet is like the biggest moat you can find on the market right now. And I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, what a moat to be able to just take whatever problem you're currently facing and just do it better than anybody else, assuredly, and in the shortest period of time.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, I guess once you work out how to incentivize it, and once you work out that incentivization mechanism, then it's yeah.
Are we looking at like another Moneyball style event in sports with the intersection of score style data collection and artificial intelligence?
Yeah, big time. I mean, it's a huge inspiration for us. This is obviously a long conversation with Peter, and this is definitely what we're shooting for. So yeah, Moneyball is the best analogy.
Yeah, real time,
it hasn't.
perfect data, right? Sorry, go on, Tim.
Yeah, no, it's saying like football is that hasn't been done for football yet, really, because the low amount of goals that actually happen. So these sort of events, compared to basketball or baseball, it makes it incredibly difficult to do, to really value players beyond the sort of core stats. So it is a big challenge, but it hasn't been done yet for football. But we are confident in the rate of pace of technology, and then the ability of the incredibly intelligent miner community on Bittensor to be able to, take it on as a challenge.
So in Moneyball, if I understand correctly, the whole concept was the addition of statistics into baseball. When I think about that innovation, I also remember studying n-grams in university, which is just statistical understanding of language, and didn't go very far. When we brought transformer models to language, we really opened another dimension of intelligence. Having all this data available to a model in real time opens up the ability to do, immediate feedback to a coach. They're sitting on the sideline, and you're saying that you're looking to create a score. This was something that I think a lot of people were really interested in. How are you going to create this like ultimate score? I think the way that you said it, I have to scroll up into the chat, but the exact quote was up here: a universal way to rate and score any moving object within a video.
Yeah, that's the goal. So obviously, I hope Peter is not on the call, because the way I'm going to describe it is definitely not, I think, as accurate as it would do. But what we're trying to achieve is basically creating the same thing as a Nilo rating. So we want to be able to first understand what's moving, on the screen, then the relationship between the moving objects, and then we want to work backwards to understand what could be done differently. And the way we're going to score things is always against kind of a binary event. So let's say in football, there's going to be let's say a goal is 1, no goal is 0. What we're going to do is we're going to be able to ingest all the information so that every player on the pitch, on the field, is going to be part of this scale from 0 to 1, because every player on the pitch will have an impact on what's happening. And when you do this, basically you collect an immense amount of data. And our goal is to run like neural networks within this new data set to kind of understand what was the impact of a movement, what was the impact of the winger, for instance, running this way, or or another player like passing the ball like behind his back or whatsoever. So we want to abstract the way we are understanding movement and the way we are scoring any part of this, of the frame on like a given outcome, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so what are these other domains that you could imagine you would be annotating in real time? Sports is an obvious one because it's it's well framed and there's a clear positive signal for a goal in the case of soccer. But like, is there a much larger set of problems here that you guys are thinking about?
Yeah, we're thinking about different things, like self-driving cars is one of them, because it's live as well. Some people, and I think we all we had that chat before. Some people also reached out to us like for shoplifting. Funny, that's as funny as it could be. But yeah, I think there's a lot of different industries where you can obviously score movements. One of them was also quite funny. I don't know if that's going to go far, but basically we had a chat with a hedge fund that is tracking like satellite videos, and they wanted to see if we could score some movements from some like commodities or stuff like that. Anyway, there's I think it's a new playing field. We're going to discover a lot of things, and I'll be more than happy to share the new white paper we're working on. It's a lot of math. It's almost looking like the GTAW white paper, but it's super cool.
One thing that I can imagine would be possible with intelligent annotation and the pipeline that you guys have built here, like the technology is the verification system that you've designed that potentially works with all sorts of different types of data. But like one thing would be, security camera footage from a mall that outputs sales data about what is being bought just by looking at what they're carrying. It seems just kind of like spy-ish thing, but this type of data is incredibly valuable and can pipe into an advertisement system and push percentage improvements in accuracy, and also for things like hedge funds. But I mean, you guys are focusing on soccer right now, and like that's obviously way more fun and also massive, right? So
Yeah.
Can I ask some like just technical questions about how this works? So you guys had this partnership that's coming up, and you're streaming this data to the miners. Or no, that's not currently streaming, but you will be soon streaming data directly to the miners, correct?
Right. Yeah, it's not currently streaming. So currently we take a game. So the game needs to be complete. We chunk it into 30-second chunks, and then each one of those forms a challenge essentially that gets sent to a subset of miners.
And so what's the ground truth here? So I understand that you send this to the miners. The miners do this annotation. They do bounding boxes on the players. They do this point determination. You said 32 points, I believe, of a pitch, and you're hoping to move that into player ID and individual events, higher order events, fights, cocky players like Ronaldo. I don't know, anything that you could imagine. Now, but how do you determine this ground truth against which you are evaluating the miners? Like, what builds the basis for that side of the problem?
So on the object detection, so counting how many objects and the pitch, the ground truth isn't necessarily something that we require. So the clip semantic search on the object that they've drawn a bounding box around, and the text what they think it is, does a pretty good job of effectively finding out if people are trying to game the system by just drawing boxes over everything, and or whether they've actually drawn a box around a player. And then on the homography, on the key point detection, some of the things that we put in place are pretty accurate at ensuring that it's plausible what the miners are coming back with. There's a benchmark essentially called GSH OTA, which is part of the SoccerNet system, which is SoccerNet's an annotation competition, I guess, around football. It's quite small, run by a university, but they've developed a benchmarking system. So effectively, what we will have coming down the pipeline is the occasional video that goes through the system, which a ground truth does exist for, an actual ground truth of annotations and events. And we will be using this to periodically score the miners based on something that we have a solid ground truth for. I guess on the event detection, post the game, at what minute there was a goal, at what minute there was a foul, etc. All of this data exists already through various football data APIs. So this effectively we can use as the ground truth for those specific moments. But really, we want to be able to create and generate those on the fly.
Right. Which I believe is possible because there is an asymmetry here between, like, if I tell you there's a player in this box and it's just grass, that's easy for you guys to check with your own VLM or secondary model. And that's what you mean by sort of spot checking once the solution has been produced. Is that correct, Tim?
Yeah.
And that exists in a couple of subnets on BitTensor, which is, it's an interesting thing. It's like it's easier to check the truth once it's been given to you than it is to actually find it. So finding the players on the pitch is difficult, but actually, if you tell me where you think they are, I can just go look underneath that particular rock.
Yeah, exactly.
So you guys have a mixture of sort of ground truth and validation asymmetry, and this allows you to push the miners towards better performance. And like, how are you guys? You said you're doing way cheaper and way faster and almost as accurate. Can you put some numbers to that? Like, what does that mean?
So, I mean, on the speed, Max, you might have the numbers in front of you. I'll talk to the accuracy. And so the accuracy is something where effectively, occasionally, the models that exist in high movement environments. So sometimes when the camera is panning very quickly and the players and or the ball are somewhat a blur, as opposed to a more recognizable character or object. It's difficult for miners to detect those objects, and missing the ball for a whole bunch of time during the game is obviously not ideal, because the scoring system we will be building really sort of revolves around the action around the ball. So the accuracy of the miners isn't quite there yet. The benchmark, which again we should be looking to, we've got to be careful with the benchmarking. We don't want to use existing videos that have a ground truth for them for the sake of potential the miners having access to the same data. So we're in the process of essentially doing some creating our own ground truths around some random video chunks to be able to feed through the system, so we can answer that question, which is a very pertinent question, Const, which is, okay, specifically, where are the top miners at the moment compared to the gold standard, which is the human annotation. So to answer your question, haven't got that right now, but we are working on feeding that through the subnet to evaluate that in the coming weeks.
And so there's some minor discrepancies. I mean, yeah, losing the ball in soccer is, that's the, keep your eye on the ball is the whole game. What are some numbers here though? Like, so how do you even measure that? Like, compared to the best, or it's compared to, I guess, human annotators is your ground truth, like these expensive people that are actually in the stadium at the time. Or maybe not in the stadium, they're just watching from their TV.
Yes,
Are they actually?
Sorry, go ahead.
Are they actually in the stadium? I guess it doesn't quite matter.
Yeah, so
but
you have two different type of situations. When you talk about companies like Genius Sports or even Opta, they have people in stadiums. Some of them are just using cameras. So there's two different approaches. But one of them is like fully human annotated. The other one is people using models that are able to help you click on a player, and then it helps you it's like semi automated. When it's fully human annotated, it takes roughly 30 seconds, let's say 20 to 30 seconds to a human being to annotate a frame with like all the players on the pitch. And just to give you a grasp of the speed of the miners, the best miners on the subnet can annotate a 30-second clip in like 3 seconds. So obviously we're not annotating all the frames, but it gives you kind of an idea of the difference in speed there. So for a full game, there's like roughly, let's say, 200,000 frames. So when you multiple like 200,000 frames times 5 seconds, let's say, it's the difference is alarming.
right.
Yeah, the way that FIFA does it essentially, especially in real time, is they have a huge team of people, and each person's job is literally to to track a single object on the screen.
Yeah.
So you've got groups of people just tracking single objects, literally just staring at something second after second. And this is the sort of real time annotation, and that takes a huge amount of manpower. The post match annotations are a combination of that, and obviously using some AI and some tracking as well.
Beautiful. This score predictor model that you spoke about, can you see a way of it being something that's built on BitTensor?
We'd love to.
Definitely.
Yeah, we'd love to. The thing is, there's two, and maybe this is a good way to open the conversation, but there's two questions on our end. First one is, is it really good in the world of detail to start like running multiple subnets? And do people would ask like, where's the value, is going to? Is the value in extracting the data, or is the value in like predicting with this kind of Monte Carlo approach and simulation approach? This is the open question on our end. We're trying to prove that all the value is going back to the subnet when we build a new product. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe you have an opinion on that, Jacob. But this is really like a big question in our heads. And our first thought was, let's do it on BitTensor, obviously. Because we live and breathe Tau now. But yeah, this is like a real big question within the team.
So, it's a good question. In an effort not to explode people's brains with complexity, in the last little while, we've been focusing on V3 pooling for DTAU and shoring up some of the like incentive issues that we saw and fixing people's dividends and small things that happened after DTAU. More on that coming soon. But on the roadmap is the ability for subnets to have subnets. And now people are just going, oh, that's just another level of complexity. Oh my gosh, wow, BitTensor is so complex. But it makes a lot of sense, right? So for instance, Score just becomes the higher level subnet, sort of like network of subnets, and potentially you have a variety of different problems that are underneath. You don't need another subnet in the way that you do it right now. And you can have your testnet internal to your 44, and you can have multiple mechanisms. Now, doing that in a way that doesn't blow up the chain, doing that in a way that is digestible. Here, because of your question, I've sort of announced it. Yeah, it is definitely going to happen. So yeah, that would be the way to do it instead of creating another token.
Oh, great! That's huge. then then it's opening like a lot of different avenues for us. It's super exciting. Yeah. So
Yeah,
if it's happening,
yeah.
then obviously the new prediction thing would definitely be on subnet 44 for sure.
Yes. And potentially what you have is a suite of mechanisms, right? That
Yeah.
some are older than others. And, there was no way in the past that a single team could run, 5 subnets at the same time. But, I imagine that you guys are quite expert at validation mechanisms on BitTensor now. Right? There's a whole structure that people can follow. Like there's tried and tested mechanisms like deterministic redundant, etc. But let's go back to Score. So you guys are making a bunch of partnerships with a whole bunch of people. There was like 4 slides on that.
Yeah.
Can you tell us like about what is the major interest from these partners? Like there's a variety of different angles they're coming in here. First of all, like what is their experience with crypto? What is their reaction when you tell them that you're being built on top of an incentive mechanism? What does that mean to them? What interests them about what you guys are building, and where's that funnel?
The funny thing is, it's I'm going to sound like I'm cheesy here or whatever, but I'm going to say anyway. So I think when you prove people that you are fixing a real problem faster, cheaper, and in a more resilient way, they tend to forget that they don't like crypto. It's like the conversation is never going to like, oh, but you guys are running running a token, so we can't really work together. I mean, we're running like real entities in different locations, so there's always a way to kind of set up like the right agreement, and then in the back end we can make sure that part of the revenue is coming back to our token, so it's fine. But honestly, they're so focused on this crowd of people fixing something they're struggling with that's they're like, okay, cool, you guys take care of the payment things, it's fine, we'll just focus on getting like quality. And it's alarming. I mean, I know Nigel is around, and Justin is around as well. I mean, the conversations they're having with big enterprises and stuff like that, no one cares. It's super weird for us, because obviously we're coming from a crypto background. Before BitTensor, we had this kind of always these conversations about we can't really work with you because there's a token. But I think that when you even if we don't want to talk about Score, sometimes we're just showing like Macrocosmos, for instance, or sometimes we're just showing Infinite Games, or sometimes even Bitmine. I made an intro to Ken last time for like VIPs that wanted to protect their images online, and no one cared about the fact that Bitmine was a crypto company. They were like, oh, cool, we're going to be able to protect our our social media pages from deepfakes and stuff like that. So yeah, I think the value props are so big that surprisingly people are not really focused on that part of the operations.
But people don't want to know either, really. Like I mean, it is complex, like you said, Const. There's a lot of complexity in how it works, and the validation mechanisms and the incentive mechanisms that are put into place. What is on chain, what's not on chain, all of that sort of stuff is for us, and people in this Discord to understand properly. But really, from an outward perspective, it doesn't really make any difference. Effectively, we as a business can work with a big network of like a decentralized, trustless network of miners to produce a result. And if people want to pay in fiat, and then we do the bridging of that to Tau and then to the Alpha token, that's fine. Like we wouldn't expect really a Web2 business or a club to work out how to purchase Tau and then transfer it across and then purchase an Alpha token and manage that whole process. So we're effectively abstracting the complexity of that away, and just presenting really what the outputs of the subnet are.
Which is the way it was always meant to be. No one wants to do a transaction on a blockchain to get an output. They just want to give you cash. And BitTensor was always meant for that because it's like it's stakeholder value, right? So you guys have your share of the subnet and that gives you bandwidth, but your Rails can be all in Web 2. So one of the comments in the chat, for those who don't know yet, SN13 supporting accurate predictions on SN44 via Dataverse. What's that about? I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, so obviously we are using our data to create predictions for different customers, one of them being our AI agents. And we partner with Macrocosmos to get like sentiment data from different sources, social media channels, tipsters channels, even odds websites, odds like providers websites. So for now, it's outside of the subnet because, as you know, we just running the validation and computer vision thing. Tomorrow, when we will be able to bring back all the prediction things on SN44, that would be integrated. Yeah, we're working with Macrocosmos to basically add parameters to our prediction models. Even if some people could, argue that sentiment is not really important on predicting outcomes of games, it's important on the odds direction, like the price direction, which is another field of prediction we are thinking about because of obviously working with Peter and his background in hedge funds and TradFi makes us think in a different way. But anyway, long story short, we're working with Macrocosmos. We're probably going to keep working with them with SN9 as well to fine tune our own version of Clip. This is an ongoing conversation, but we are true believers in subnet collaboration. And this is how that was pretty much our call to action at the end of the presentation. But basically we have a strong business background, we have a strong biz dev background. We believe in BitTensor, and if we can help any subnets or anyone to be introduced to large companies or anything we could do to help other subnets, or we would do it because for us it has to be a positive sum game.
Okay, guys, we're at the end of the call, but before we go, I want to hear the master plan for Score's eventual purchase of a football club. Like, take us through chain of thought reasoning, step by step to the final goal.
Okay, cool. So we show the football world that our data is making our customers win games. We hire probably like 2-3 more managers, good managers. And what we do is we talk to our people in finance, like the hedge funds and stuff like that. We put together probably roughly 20 to 30 million. And then we go and buy a second league, like, League 2 club. And then we start playing in recruiting player with the positional, evaluation system. We run all the data science team just from our subnet. And we ask the coaches we've hired within the team to help find the right people to run the club. It's actually far from now from a money perspective. We don't have like the 20-30 million that we would need. But when you think about it, and with the speed of execution of BitTensor, but also from our team, I think we're not that far actually to probably buy a club. So the roadmap is pretty forward. Just one simple thing: we need to be authorized by the institutions to buy clubs. But yeah, I think we know the right people to get there.
Brilliant, and I'll be number one fan.
Oh, that's great. And by the way, I know some people saw that we produced some like JPEGs of like jerseys, t-shirt, like kits, football kits. Nigel is on it, and we're going to soon allow people to order them. And obviously, for lots of people we know around the subnet, they will just receive it across the post. So yeah, we want the BitTensor FC to be a reality.
Oh, you got to send me one of those.
100%.
Well, guys, that was a fantastic. Thank you so much for coming. Great call. So much that you guys have been doing over the last couple of months, and it's only been just over half a year, right? So, yeah, thank you, Max, Tim. Let's leave it there.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye, guys.
Very good. Appreciate you guys.
Bye-bye.